All right. Welcome to the District 3 podcast. Councilwoman Parrish-Wright, Councilwoman Chappell of District 15. Now you can go ahead. Oh, here, I can also do, there it is.
There it is.
The claps.
The claps. So, is it called Mitzi's off Bardstown Road?
Yeah.
Karaoke. Mm-hmm. Is it Bardstown or Frankfurt? It's on Frankfurt, I believe, because it used to be a pizza shop. Well, they do karaoke. And so we were there a couple weeks ago. And we decided, okay, let's be there for Attica Scott's birthday. Shout out to her. She recently lost her father. And we want to celebrate her. So we're doing it January the 30th. And it's right after the council meeting. I said, you know what? I could use some karaoke after our council meeting. So that's where I'll be headed to after we have our first council meeting.
If we ever go out after a council meeting, it's like, where are we going to, guys? But I love this. We're planning a week ahead.
That's right.
I love it. Women in leadership.
That's right. I'll send you the flyer. And make sure you know about it. Well, I am honored to be here with Councilwoman Chappell, who is not only an amazing councilwoman who I've learned a great deal from, and watching her ask the questions, make sure the org charts are straight, and all the things in between. But she's also a part of a border district for us, for District 3. And I just want to give you some time to introduce yourself and then to describe your district to the people.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on here. And I'm really honored that our districts board each other, because I really respect you as a councilwoman, and I really look forward to working with you more. I think that we can be agents of change, and we're greater in number. So I'm really excited for us to continue this friendship.
Yes.
So District 15, really wonderful district. I would say Louisville's finest.
Yes.
But
you do have that. You branded that.
I did brand that.
Not better than District 3, though.
She has Louisville finest, and not the police way. It's the finest district, and I think that's a great way to describe it.
No one ever remembers that LMPD, Louisville's finest, because I was like, isn't that what we used to call our LMPD? And I couldn't get anyone to, validate that for me.
Wow.
Yeah, but you just confirmed it. I was like, I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Because I was like, I don't want it to look like a
finest is a very a term that a lot of police departments have used over the years.
Like military too, right?
It's a bar set. It's like a bar of excellence that I hope they aspire to have.
Well, upper echelon is difficult to spell, right? I don't even know.
Yes.
ECHELON. Sorry, I'm a speller.
Yeah, no, I love that.
I keep my word snobs and my wordsmithers with me, because I will jack up the English language. I was just reminded by my dear friend Kalila, who was in a conversation years ago, more than 10 years ago. I told them that when all of my kids are grown, I'm going to use signs and symbols. I'm not an interpretive dance. I'm not communicating with English. And they were like, you are crazy. I was like, I'm going to let them graduate. They got to get through school. We got to figure it out. And then this is the way we move it. I feel like the universe is moving that way, right? Symbols, emojis, Absolutely. All that. I mean, and if, so they were like, Shamika, are you really serious? So last night I get a call from Kalila, and we're catching up. And she said, I just got to tell you this moment. We're in a chat, and we start talking about the English language, because some people, there's people who speak Arabic and some of the more complicated languages who say, why is English so hard? And I say, because English went down the alley and robbed all the other languages, and now we're trying to figure it out. But so she said, what's interesting is we're having this conversation, and I just said, you know what, forget this. I'm not even speaking. I'm just not going to do anything. They said, Shamika has entered the chat. So they said Shamika Parrish-Wright has entered the chat. But speaking of that, speaking of languages, in our JCPS schools, more than 147 languages are spoken. When I ran for school board, I learned that. And I know some conversational Spanish. We talk about how much we use and we don't use. Then I was immersed into Miami, where I really had to use that Spanish, and then came back here and just thinking about even some of the things we see with the translation services and things like that. Our districts have a growing, vast population of international immigrant and refugee people. To me, it's important to say all three, because a lot of times people don't make that distinction. Just, I had to tell the people in Miami, they said, what are you mixed with? I said, I'm regular black. And they're like, I would be with people sitting at the table darker than me, beautiful black people, but they didn't consider themselves to be African American. They would say, I'm Haitian, I'm Bohemian, I'm this and I'm that. And I said, well, where I'm from, you go where I am in the gateway to the South, you just black or white, or other. They don't make that distinction. But our districts are so unique to the growing populations that we have, and we inherited that. But I think it's a beautiful thing because it's a better representation of the world. The world is mixed and diverse, and people speak so many different languages, and it really reminds you, if you can't travel, if you travel all of our districts, you'll get that taste, as well as Councilwoman Rui, which is District 21 as well. Yeah. So I think we have a unique setup, but I wanted you to finish saying what District 15, because people think you're just Churchill Downs. It's bigger than that.
Or they just think I'm Germantown, and I only have like a little sliver of Germantown. So the most northern street in my district would be Barrett Avenue, a little bit of Barrett Avenue. I always say my most northern constituents are dead because it's St. Michael's Cemetery. And then you go through neighborhoods like Schnitzelburg, St. Joseph, Meriwether, Fort Hill. You go through the University of Louisville's campus. And then kind of at Central Avenue, it's kind of like a little tight belt in my district. And that's where you have things like Jim Patterson Stadium, L&N Federal Credit Union Stadium. Mm-hmm. I just say that because it's a mouthful, right?
It definitely is.
That's ridiculous. But also Churchill Downs is over there. And then you go out down Taylor Boulevard. And so you have neighborhoods like Oakdale Wyandotte, Lucky Horseshoe, a little bit of Taylor Berry.
That's where we border.
Jacobs right over there. And then I also have Hazelwood, and then Iroquois, and then Cloverleaf. And then my most southern point in my district is Iroquois Park. Yeah. So it is a very long and skinny district. It's very, one of the things I love about it, though, it's all in the urban services district. So there are all a lot of neighborhoods. I don't have any small cities. It's just really organic, and it just really feels wonderful to have all of those neighborhoods together. Most of them have neighborhood associations, and they're also ever evolving. You were just talking about the diversity in our districts. In the 2020, after the 2020 census came out, Cloverleaf, the neighborhood that's in the southern part of my district, saw a 33% increase in diversity, which was the most of any neighborhood in Louisville Metro.
Wow.
And so when we're addressing constituent concerns out there, it's not just, it's a Hispanic population. And even in a Hispanic population, you have a lot of different languages. You have different dialects,
That's right.
Like even if you think about French, people in, French Canada and maybe Creole New Orleans, and somebody from Paris, they're speaking French, but maybe not the same French.
That's right.
So being able to understand each other on that language or on that level is just really important. But I think that, and it's been wonderful because we have Louisville Metro is doing a better job at like getting more things out in different languages.
Yes.
It's hard to have so many, but we've had solid waste issues with families before, and other neighbors were complaining, I wish that they would understand the process. I wish that, somebody would tell them how to do it. And so we sent somebody from solid waste management over with materials in their language.
Yeah.
So, that problem doesn't happen anymore, but they just didn't receive that information. But one of the things about Louisville Metro, I feel, is we don't do a good job communicating in English. Like, we don't do a good job communicating across the board. Our website is a hot mess. If you want to go through any sort of like application process, the rules are just made up as you go along. Everything looks like it was like, I don't know, built in 1999 and just didn't go through Y2K. Mm-hmm. Stuff's broken. Our Louisville Metro stuff is booby-trapped. I can't airdrop on my iPhone. It is so annoying. And so I feel like we're holding ourselves back and being those people that are able to tell who we are and how you can engage.
Yes.
Because I think that sometimes I think it's intentional gatekeeping, and then other times I just think that it's ignorance, this is, why fix this?
Yeah.
That's something that I noticed when I first came on council. I referred to the welcoming that class as the toddlers, just because when you had mentioned earlier, I ask a lot of questions. I'm like, why? Okay, why?
Right.
And, I don't stop digging in because I want to understand it. I'm not thinking about is she digging for something? But instead, I'm just trying to understand from my own knowledge. And so I think asking those questions is really important. But a lot of people are like, well, no one's ever asked about this. Like, why are you, why are you asking?
And you look
about
like
this?
The problem child.
Right. And it's just kind of like, well, if there's some sort of like defensiveness or some sort of like uncomfortability, like I think that this is somewhere that we really need to lean in.
Right. I like that. That's what one of the things I like about watching you and your leadership is when I took on this challenge, I said, I want to help reduce the red tape. Everything you're talking about reduces the red tape for people to access governmental services. I mean, we're here to serve. We're paid through tax dollars to be here to not only represent our communities, to make sure that what we're doing is accessible from anyone, from our disabilities community to our English as a second language communities and people who are coming to survive and thrive. And I think sometimes we're a growing city and we want to be this bigger city, but we still operate kind of like a small town, like go see
very siloed
somebody down the road, and it won't get us to where we need to be. And I learned about the complicated things of operating or navigating metro services. One, as a single mom growing up and maturing here and learning and navigating that, but most recently during my bail reform work with things like accessing court services, accessing translators for some of the clients we were serving to, that were needed to get out or needed to have an understanding of what was happening in their court proceedings. And then also learning that you can't do a lot of things online. And I think now I see more translation options. But back then when I started, it was really hard for people to have things put in their language. I think we are starting to do better. I do think that is a pain point that we can grow from and be more inclusive and hire translators. We have young people who are already the translators of their family, and they would
pay them.
Definitely pay them.
Because
yes.
we have some people doing their job plus translation services, and that's not on us to lean on them.
No, they should be paid more if they choose to do that.
Like
people,
the provider, whoever, if it's medical, if it's, you shouldn't have to rely on the child.
That's right.
It should be on whoever is providing that service to that family to call a translation line or hire a translator.
I totally agree. I'm
it's
just
not fair
noticing
to ask a child to do that.
I totally agree. Right. What I noticed though, we have youth that are looking to be employed and looking to have opportunities. It should be self-elected if they want to be in those positions. Yeah. But the reality is, unfortunately, even I had a mom to navigate my educational pathway because folks can call her. I just can't imagine what it's like to be a young person that to have a one-on-one or parent-teacher conference, and you got to translate everything your teacher is saying and then translate what your parent is saying, and just imagine being put in that role. So I totally agree.
And then there's also but that's also a double-edged sword, because if you get somebody on the sorry, this is like...
No, I like it.
So it's a double-edged sword also because you might get somebody that, to your point, a different dialect. So some languages are it's so hard to find someone in that specific dialect. It's like an approximation. So then they might not understand and communicate as well. And then do you trust this translate? You don't know this person. So it's so intricate.
So complicated. And I noticed that, I don't know if you did when you were running for this seat and door knocking, on my own street, I knocked on doors and talked to some of my neighbors, and some of my neighbors who didn't speak English would go and get their child to come and meet me at the door and tell me, what was going on. And I'm blown away. First of all, I know that community will do whatever it can to take care of itself. But I do see that government, the reason why we pay our taxes, the reason why we do the things that we do is so that we could provide and be supportive of communities that want to grow, that want to learn, that want to have opportunities. And those opportunities include paying people, right? I don't think anybody's paid what they're worth. But then offering an opportunity to pay, if it's not young people, some people to do the translation service. Get trained, because translating for a court process versus a PTA meeting are two different things. There's terminology, and like you said, there's words that don't necessarily translate in English and things like that. But at the most point, we could do better about our neighbors. And I want us to be this welcoming city. And I want to thank you for understanding that when I made the call to you about having that presser around the welcoming cities. And I think it's important for our districts that our folks know of all our residents. I'm using constituents. All of our constituents recognize the work that we do. But before,
But I think that,
go ahead.
just really quick, I just wanted to say, I think that that's also really important for us to lean into technology.
Yes.
Because that is a place where, you know, like maybe it's not realistic to have a translator that can speak a very specific language that only a few people speak. I think that that's where it's like, if we're able to digitize a lot of things, like we were talking about the other day, the NDF process, digitizing that and putting the application online, then you can rely on the computer to do the translating for you. And that person then has more autonomy and they feel like they have more control of the process. But also when it comes back to like, we're so antiquated here, you know, now it's like the NDF process. You have to have a stack of papers this big and, oh, you missed this one form that is so obscure. Please fax it to us. And it's just like, we have these pools of NDF money. And I was saying this last night, it's not enough, but it's also difficult to give it out, right? Like it's hard to find that nonprofit that's in compliance, that has the very like, that has the structure and administrative support to do that paperwork.
That's right.
I mean, it's a lot for our offices to work on that paperwork, let alone the people that we employ in OMB, Office of Management and Budget, to do that work. And so, you know, how are we being better stewards to our constituents, but better stewards to us?
Yeah.
You know, like, are we running our wheels ragged? So I think that that's really important to think about. And then also when it comes to marketing, I do want to point out that you are unique and you do a podcast. I do a lot of social media. I know that you all do as well. Some council people don't have any social media at all. When it comes to newsletters, some have them, some don't. Some go out weekly, some go out monthly. And so it's all just kind of like, there's no standardization, which is totally fine, because I think that that's good to give that council person that ability. But it was when I was in Germany, and we were there meeting with our sister city, Mainz, Germany, and we were with the mayor, and their social media person kept saying, what's your tag? What's your tag? What's the city of Louisville's tag? And I said, we don't have a city of Louisville tag. You know, they're just, you know, Staldad Mines, which is the city of Mines.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was like, well, you can tag my council person or the mayor. But it was like, we didn't have one unified voice. We didn't have one, you know, like without politics. Here is something that we can like put information out there, but we're not, you know, there's not a person behind this, but it's a city, it's a brand. And the Growing Louisville Together plan, that was actually part of it. I don't know what's happening with it, but, you know, coming up with a brand for the city of Louisville, what are we? We're more than bourbon.
Right.
So what is that kind of brand that we can all get behind? And one of the things that was interesting about Germany is anywhere and everywhere that you went, a construction site at the top of a crane, the sewer grates, everything had their city logo on it, and the flag was everywhere. I never saw a German flag. I just saw the city's flag.
Wow.
And so to have that kind of pride in place, but also for the city to say, look, this is what we own. This is what we're taking ownership of. And being prideful and like how well you're maintaining that infrastructure.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that like Germany's doing everything great. Their parks were kind of scary. So, you know, I'm not going to sit there and say like Europeans do everything better. But I think that in branding a city and then, you know, having people have pride in place was very, very important. And I think that that's something that we're lacking here in Louisville.
Oh, good points. I mean, I think we should switch roles and you should just be interviewing me. And I really agree with that. And I would add to that us like being able to travel and see the good things that other cities are able to do and what's tangible for us is so important. And if people line up and work together, we can create what we need, right? I definitely agree with that. One of the things I've said is like the only substance that is highly accepted is bourbon and whiskey and liquor and alcohol, but a lot of people use different substances, but those are discriminated against because it's not those things. If you drink, you have every option. You have a menu of services. You can drink today, go home, come back and drink again. You can drink again. You can choose to go to an AA meeting and not come back. You can get transportation. You could get all those things. When I talk about the work that I do, people think that I'm saying I want special treatment for people. No, I want people to have equal options to be able to navigate, do whatever they need to do, no matter what they're dealing with. And I see myself as a civil servant to do my part in my role. So I really take pride in being put in this seat by the people of District 3. I am really blessed. It's an amazing working class district that is mixed. We have just as many homeowners as we do renters, but we have a very great deal of our folks who are proud of District 3 in every way. Now,
we also got Lively Shively.
And we got Lively Shively, and we lean into that. And we also understand that Shively has some rich roots. It started out as a suburb, and then it became one of the first and oldest cities. And then it was built, the distilleries and the people who were running those businesses said, we don't want Louisville just telling us everything, and the city was built out of that. But what I've seen over the redistricting process is that Shively gets shrunk around, like it's a shrinking district. And then so when we're out, Dre and Ben and our interns have to really tell people, no, you're actually in Shively now, or no, you're not in Shively now. No, this was a part of our district. Algonquin Park was a part of our district. Now we only have 3 Louisville Metro parks that are considered, and then we have the Shively Park. So we spend a lot of time at the doors with our constituents, educating them. But what we don't have to tell them is about their neighborhood. Like we talked about Waterston Lake, and we talked about when we go there and we do cleanups and things like that. I'm so thankful for Ben connecting with them to do that. They tell us the geese are everywhere, or the geese are not staying in the lake. And then you and I had that conversation. They were like, it used to be fishing tournaments and things like that, and they are very proudful about their neighborhoods, but they don't feel like the city has been invested in District 3. And you have one of those districts that there's a great deal of things that people are invested into your district for, whether they're connected to other businesses that are there, but you also have college students. You also have a great deal of people. It's like you said, it's long and skinny. Ours is like, I always said, it's like an elephant turned on its side. And it's just like, it's,
okay. It has the little like hook down into like PRP, but it's not PRP proper.
No.
So it's like
we got little slivers of every neighborhood that we have, and the biggest neighborhood being Shively, of course, but we have the sliver of Cloverleaf we share, as well as Taylorberry and some of the other ones.
Cloverleaf and Jacobs.
So like you, which I really like, is that you lift up the neighborhoods that are in your district, which I think is really important because it makes people be neighborhood strong. And so we didn't want to spend a lot of money on swag or our office furniture. We wanted to spend as much money as we could with the communities and the people. But towards the end, we went for a logo design that Dre started, and then we worked with Kendall Epley to really bring out, but really highlighting those neighborhoods. And people were proud to get those hoodies and T-shirts and all of that stuff. And so today, when I got to the office, I said, look what Jennifer has. I put your sticker up in my wall in my other office, but the brochures, the ways that you engage your community are not just online either. And we learned that there's a digital divide in our district. Some people will never go online and fill out those forms. So we have Dre printing out newsletters that Ben does. And here's my amazing anthropology grad who has went back to school, who had a birthday last week, who's went back to school for his graduate degree. But these newsletters to me are our communication to the community. And guess what? We've had people in our district during our district advisory board meetings tell us that they tailored their church newsletters and their community association outreach information based on what they've seen us do in our newsletter. So you just never know who's reading it and who's being impacted by it. But what I like, you don't just have an online presence and the way that you engage. You also have things that you're able to do in their place. One of those things being Bob. And so I wanted you to talk about Bob, how that came about, and how we can partner with you at the next one.
Sure. And I think that this is my marketing and advertising background.
I love that.
Just like branding is really important to me. So if it comes from my office, I want you to know it comes from my office. But also the shield that we made, the logo, it doesn't say my name.
No.
And so it's all District 15. It's not a great strategy for re-election purposes. I understand that.
You're not maximizing the marketing.
I know. So nothing
Ben
unethical.
makes sure the stuff have my name on it. I had to tell people, they'll see the stickers. I'm like, I did not make the decision to put my face out there.
Yeah, and I did, because I said Anyway.
On the pendant, I said, it's a lot seeing yourself so much. And I was like, I don't want people to think that I told my team, you got to wear Shamika.
He stands for you so hard.
He
It
does.
is so
He
adorable.
really, really does.
I know. Amy needs to. No, I'm just kidding. Amy is amazing.
Shots fired. No.
No.
Shout out to my incredible
That's
LA.
right. She
Amy.
is amazing.
She is really
Yeah,
amazing.
And got a round of applause at the women's event.
Yeah, and she deserved that. All of our LAs do. Honestly.
They love Ben. I go places. I'm
Some of 'em.
like, let me not show up with Ben. They're like, where's Ben at? We talked to Ben. We okay. I called him for a follow up. I already talked to Ben. He handled it. Thank you though. But Ben, I said, Ben, you gonna run for my seat or what? Like, that's pretty. He's not in the district yet, but we'll figure it out.
When I buy a house in D3,
He said he coming for
Watch
me.
out if we start seeing Ben buttons. Right? But yeah, Bob is a program that is through our office. It's called Building Our Blocks. So I have a lot of really great ideas, but they're not always original. And I came to find out that Bob wasn't necessarily an original idea. Well, I'm really involved with like Louisville Grows, and I love their tree plantings.
Oh, yes.
And I love that they go to every single door, and they knock and they say, do you want a tree? They're having a conversation. But that neighborhood canvassing is like so important. Like that is juicy stuff right there. So when I was on the conservation district, the Jefferson County Soil and Water Conservation District.
Oh, shout out to them.
Yeah, shout out to them. Very long
hopefully
name.
they get their money this year.
Hopefully, I think we can do it. We did it last year, so we can do it. But I thought, well, why aren't we going around the neighborhood and let's greenify a neighborhood beyond trees? What if we were asking them for if they wanted a rain barrel or a native plant garden?
Yeah.
And I never had the time for that idea to take off. And so when I got in office, I was like, well, we have all these city services. Why don't we just do this? And it's just all city services at your doorstep. And so that's when I was explaining this idea to Amy, and she goes, oh, that's already been done. And I was like, what? And so I guess Bob is a program on a national scale. Wow. I don't think it's like that popular, obviously. Otherwise, engaged folks would probably know about it. But they did it here in Louisville, and I think in 2016, and they were focused in 11 neighborhoods in the West End.
Wow.
And so I met with, I didn't have a name for my idea, and so we met with Robin Hawkins, who I call the mother of Bob, and she gave us our blessing. And so we took Bob in as our own, and the only male employee I get. Bob can be gender neutral.
Yes,
yeah, Bob can be gender
Bobby.
neutral. Yeah.
Bobby.
Bobby with an I. Yeah. I don't know what the additional B and I would stand for, but we'll get there another day. But Bob stands for Building Our Blocks, and so we're in our third one right now, and it's in the Meriwether Fort Hill neighborhood, which is over kind of by 65. People might know it by like things like Dairydale.
Yeah.
It's really close to Shelby Park and Schnitzelberg.
Do you have any of Eastern Parkway?
I do. I have a lot of Eastern Parkway.
How far do you go? I'm sorry, because as I drive on Eastern Parkway, I'm like, whose district is this?
Oh, complaints? It's probably Ben's part, Ben Reno Weber's part. No, I actually have from the university where it terminates.
So like Crittenden?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, where it terminates. Oh, so right there at
all the way
engineering
from,
school.
Goss Avenue all the way to the engineering school.
Oh, so you
wow.
have Goss. Oh, but anything. Okay.
I have all of that. Yeah, I know it's problematic. I know it's really problematic. But Meriwether Fort Hill, we're really excited to be there. So what we do with our Bob program, we have a couple of community meetings. We're doing things a little different right now. We're starting off with door knocking before our community meetings, and there's a reason for that. But we go to door, and we have a menu. It's really cute, this little door hanger, and it says everything like free services, what do you want? And you can either fill it out there, give it to whoever's door knocking, mail it in, or we have a QR code that you can scan and do it digitally. But it's everything: free trees, a security check from LMPD, a smoke detector installed by Louisville Fire, home repairs through New Direction Housing Corporation, radon test, lead test, rain barrel. Wow. If you have a cat colony, do you have a trash cart that needs repair or replacement, recycling cart? All of these things. And we also say do you have something else that is on your property? And so we want to gather all of that information so we can be very, this is my way of Louisville Metro being proactive instead of reactive.
Yeah.
Like, let's solve your problems first, but also like, I don't want to sit here and like, you called me about, you need a trash can 2 days later, you call me and you need a trash can, and it's just kind of like, and then you're putting in that order. It's 2 different, like, let's just get 10 trash cans and like do all the ones that need replacing. It's going to save us all
so they come with those things. So if you had 10 trash cans on there, when you actually have your Bob event, they bring them there and just give it to them right there, or the rain barrels.
So we have a big Bob day, and then that's when we try to do all of these things. So it's really neat. We also have mobile doctor visits.
Oh, I like that.
So if you signed up for those services on our big Bob day, which this spring will be on May 17th, so right after Derby. I think that's 2 weekends after Derby. But you can come to our resource fair. You can get free gun locks. You can get... we'll have an LMAS vaccine clinic. We have an inflatable safety house there. We have tons of tablers. And you can just get all sorts of information, whether it's from the Coalition for Homeless to Codes and Regs to TARC. And we also try to activate the neighborhood that day, but we're also having people doing home repairs that day, doing trash cleanups, doing just all sorts of things. We ask for small businesses to maybe do something so that they can like engage with folks. So hopefully this time around, Dairy Dell can do something really fun to activate their space. So we just really want to like call attention to a neighborhood. If there's an art project that we can do, we really want it to coincide. We always do a tree planting. So those community planning meetings are really important for us. And that's when we kind of take that lens a little bit more macro. And we're not only saying, what do you need at your house, but we're also saying, how do you see your community? And that's when people can say, oh, there's a really dangerous intersection, or this TARC stop really needs to be fixed. And so we're open to throw anything at us, and we want to help solve that for you. The very first Bob, somebody said, I have a beehive in my backyard. And so we partnered with a local beekeeper, and they humanely removed the beehive.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's things like
it's
that.
why people depend on government services to do and connect to the little things. I mean, we have the big picture policy, legislation, but really answering the phone, answering requests, and like you said, we try to put out a lot of fires, but meeting people where they at means sometimes this beehive is very important to me right now.
Absolutely. And I always say that with, when I was door knocking, people weren't saying, man, I really hope that you do something radical, right? They weren't saying that. They were saying, gosh, this car's been in front of my house abandoned for 2 weeks. Can you get it moved? Or there's shoes that are tied up there on the poles. Can you do something? Or there's a crack in the sidewalk and I trip on it every time I'm going to the bus stop. By the way, there's not a shelter there and I get rained on every time I'm waiting for the bus. Those are the things that like impact people on their day to day that we really need to be addressing. And we all have a different perception of like what public safety is, right?
That's right.
Like we can all sit here and say we want public safety.
Right.
Benz would probably be investing more in LMPD. I wanted to make sure you're still paying attention.
Yes, so much.
I like this.
But
this is non-scripted.
But for me, I think that if you live on a tree-lined street, you have you experience less crime in your community. If you have better access to green space, if you are, what are these things doing to a built environment that impact people's mental health?
That's
that
right.
person that's like sitting there tripping on their way to the bus stop, the bus is late, they're getting rained on, they don't have anywhere to stand or sit. Those are things where it just makes somebody feel like they're disposable, that they don't have any dignity, and they don't have any that they're not wanted.
And that makes them unsafe because I agree public safety is housing. It's the beautification of the neighborhoods. It's transportation. Yeah. It's their needs matter. And like you said, they haven't been discarded or thrown away, that they contribute to their community and their community contributes to whatever they need. I think that reciprocated relationship is sometimes missing, and we are trying to fill in a bunch of gaps, but none of us by ourselves have the ability to solve everybody's problems, but we can start to address, we can connect you. We got in the office, and one of the things we noticed is we spent a lot of time, Ben didn't know what 411 was, connecting people as 411, like information and like sharing of information. And so
I ain't gonna let that go, is you?
I'm not going to let that go. And we get all these calls, and really it's just listening, responding back. I've asked the team at least in 48 hours to 72 hours if there's a holiday or something. Let's just respond and let people know, hey, even if we don't have an answer, give them an update. Let them know that we work for you and that we really want this to happen. But now that means when we're out in community, I said, Ben, I got a bunch of stuff to download. People come up to me. Someone just came up to me Saturday at the MLK event and said, the Route 63 with TARC eliminating that's caused problems. People are disabled.
Is that Cane Run?
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe they.
And so like then we get this laundry list of like the stuff that people are telling us out in the community. Then we get the people who are going to follow up, and then we get our frequent flyers who are going to call us every week, no matter what. And then we're constantly sorting through that, and so it's been amazing. And I know you got an amazing team, but I want to give you an opportunity to share what the positions are you have in your office and the value that's added to you. Because I know, like you, and when we were at the Women's Ambassador, when I came and I was late, I wasn't saying it like, oh, unlike these people, I got a full-time job, even though Ben says that I neglect him sometimes. But I was saying that I wear so many hats. I work in those jobs, but I wish all I had to do was counsel. And it's so hard. And so coming in there, watching how you handled that, it was so beautiful to be a part of that. I didn't want to miss. I wanted to show up and show you what that means. But then to hear that audience as you introduced Amy Luckett, to hear how they responded, I was like, that's my Ben. That's how Ben is when we go places. So anyway,
I was going to say a different B word.
Bob with an I.
That's my Bobby.
So just telling people, like, each council office, as you described, can choose to set their office up in any way. There's no rules on how, but they're
required to have an LA.
Required to have an LA full time, and then you can contract or do things with it. So just explain who's your team.
Sure. So I have Amy Luckett, and she's my legislative aide. She's my right hand. They're so important. And,
yes.
When we're so busy and we can't meet, I always want to stress to people, and it's like, I can't meet with you, but you can meet with my LA, and I want you to know that this person is just as important as I am.
That's right.
They will communicate with me, and we're on the same page, all the time. So you're really lockstep with your LA, and I'm sure that, like, if there was a fly on the wall listening to, like, Amy and I in our offices, we're just saying things like that. It sounds like there's no correlation between what they're saying. They're just like chirping back at each other.
Sounds familiar.
And it's like and it's just like, I bet this sounds really chaotic if you were just like listening into us. But then I also have Elena Balakis, and yes. She is, and I know that you know Elena, she's wonderful. She is my Bob coordinator. And so
nice.
She's officially my programs coordinator, but she's specifically on Bob, and she is an expert door knocker.
She is. I've door knocked with her when I was running for office.
I know. She door knocked for you. She door knocked for herself. She door knocked for Andy Bashir. She door knocked for. She's just a door knock extraordinaire.
You need someone that doesn't mind hitting those doors, talking to people, meeting them where they at. She is amazing at that, and she is. I don't know if you know that she's part of the reason why I'm here. She was a legislative district person over my district, and so when the Democratic nomination process happened, she had to weighted vote because it's based on the amount of registered voters you have in each district and precinct, and her weighted vote is what helped me get here.
Well, you're welcome then.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Yeah, I know. Congratulations.
Yes.
So, and then we have an intern, and I think everyone wanted to be Shamika's intern. She got like
requests.
94, and the rest of us got 1. And we really, really loved our intern, Kylie. And so she is working for us this spring semester. So we hired her. So she's just doing 10 hours a week, but she really helped, like, just filling in some gaps in, like, legislation, right?
Yes.
And then we also have an intern from Holy Cross High School.
We had a high school intern. That's
cool.
beautiful.
And she comes in every Tuesday. I'm like, is this for real? This is great, More, please.
Yes.
But I think that it's really important, like you were saying, you have all of these different buckets of constituents, and so you have these constituent concerns that you have to take care of. And then you have legislation that you're trying to, work on or pass or, figure out who's voting on what. There's also your committees, and so you have to you have to know what's going on in committee. You also have to know, nurture the relationships with other council people. And that's really hard because there's 26 of us. Mm-hmm. We all have different personalities. And we're politicians.
That's right.
Strong personalities.
Yes.
I can't stand it when people are like, I'm not a politician. When they're like a sitting council person, I'm like, well, that's like,
You're in that role.
If you're cleaning my teeth, you're a dentist.
That's right.
Hopefully.
Right.
Hopefully.
Right. Like, it's just whatever. So there's so many like plates to be juggling at all times. And then there's so many things I was thinking about before I came here. We're talking to somebody about an LG&E pole that needs to be removed and a new sign that's going up, and then their trash isn't picked up, and then the snow isn't happening. But then I also need to have a meeting with this department, but then I'm trying to organize this. But then I also got these survey results back, and I have to create a presentation. It's like you're trying to do all of these things, and you don't have enough time to do anything. And they say at the beginning of this job that you can give it as much as, it'll take as much as you're willing to give it.
Right.
I'm one of those people, I think I could sleep here at City Hall
and
be fine.
I've been here leaving at like midnight, late.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so peaceful. And
Love it.
I get a lot done because, and then sometimes I'm here waiting on my sons to get through their after school activities. But I just like, okay, I can choose to do this work. I'd rather be with him, but he's out long. He's like, I'm out of here. He's checking out 5, 6 o'clock.
I know. Amy's got kids.
I know, right?
Tries to have a family.
He's got a whole party that's like, where are you at?
Not this erasure of my late nights with you. I have had plenty of late nights with you at this building, ma'am. So let's not erase that. Thank you.
So this is a great segue to Ben. Ben had some questions that he wanted to answer, and while you're doing it, I'll set up my phone for just because I want people to see how fun this is.
Absolutely.
Yes. So I know I always with these podcasts will generally have like, a set of questions to ask, and like, and then the guests come and the councilwoman, they just start talking. So I'm like, I forgot my questions. It doesn't matter. But you were recently elected to be the vice chair of the Democratic Caucus. What made you want to seek that leadership position?
I have the same problem with my mom. It's like you can't just get involved. You have to like be the president kind of thing, like you got to do the most when you don't need to. So that's kind of where this is. But I think that for myself, I really wanted to be the vice chair because I thought it was really important. I think that I like to do the behind the scenes stuff. I like to do organization. I like to make sure that we're putting in processes that, everything's getting filed away correctly. So I didn't want to be that person that was, giving the press conference, but I wanted to be the person that's, working on unifying our caucus. I think it's pretty wild bunch. Yeah. Pretty wild bunch. But I think that we all have a vision, but like, how can we better unite around a vision? Because we can get there greater as the whole instead of one by one. So I'm hoping that we can get some cool stuff done if we have some consensus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great.
We'll see.
Yeah, and then I also wanted to ask, because speaking of the caucus, in 2026, as we look toward nonpartisan, I know the statute states that we have to have 2 caucuses of, one is majority and one. So what is kind of your vision for as the caucus is? You have to have the caucus, but you can't run. So what is your vision for that?
I would kind of hope that the state would put something in place that we wouldn't have to deal with that anymore, right? Like, we're not required to have those caucuses. But I think that no matter what, they're always going to naturally form on their own, especially if you've already got these groups of people, right? It's kind of difficult unless you clean the slate and start all over again, because there's a lot of bias that people come into this with. A lot of chips on shoulders, that chip on your shoulder is not mine to bear, so don't put it on me. But that happens a lot here.
Yes.
So I think that I'm not sure what my vision is for caucuses other than like we can all start just getting along?
Yeah, I think they can. Caucuses, if done correctly, could help sort through a lot of things, help build and bridge the unity that we're trying to, and help you understand what the priorities are for us as a whole and what are our individual priorities are. I think you're right. There's a lot of, I sometimes describe it as the worst game of high school. Like you have your cliques, you have your seniors that's been around for a while, you got your freshmen that are trying to figure things out.
What clique would I be in?
I know, right? Like, but you're like a junior now, right?
Yeah.
You're a junior, and I think you're in a good place to, you're like me. People are like, are you going to run for a chair seat? I didn't want to do that in the first year. I wanted to get to know the lay of the land, see what's out there and everything. Then when I saw what happened during and I really didn't want to take a leadership position now, but I said I would consider a vice chair or a chair after I saw how the caucus president and caucus council president elections went. I said, oh, folks have been plotting and planning and nobody called me. They already got me in a box. They like, she gonna be over here. But it really made me, and I was saying, Ben, like, wow, I wanted to make sure that I was taking on things that I can give the full time. But basically last year I was on 3 committees and 1 ad hoc. And now I'm on 4 committees and 1 as a vice chair of public works.
Now you're a council representative for the Commission on Persons with Disabilities.
Yes, which technically I am a disabled person based on my heart condition. I decided that I couldn't live off that right now as I was still raising kids, but I technically qualify to even have a handicap just because of my condition. And so because I'm still able-bodied, I try to rely on that. But so I think it's an honor because, and also disability groups are often very active, a consistent voting bloc.
Multiple times.
They always address council. They line up on a lot of things. And when President Ackerson offered it to me, I was in the middle of doing a panel on Saturday, and I was just like, oh, okay, I didn't think about that. I was at my cap with the 4 committees, but I think it's so important to have good people represent the council on these committees. I have no hidden agenda. I'm not here for a resume builder. So I'm here to learn, and I'm learning a lot about the internal workings of Metro government. And so I'm still a freshman. Like, I'm a freshman going into my sophomore year. But I feel like I really care about us doing a job that we can do while it's our turn. And I see that in you. I love people joke, but I love your comments and conversations about org charts, about having your paperwork together. One time, I'm not on government accountability anymore. But during that process, there were several times where Ben would help me go through some of that. And then some people did not have a resume or had a really tiny resume that you needed a micro. And I'm thinking, when I was appointed, I was a human relations commissioner. So I served 2 terms. And rest in peace to Carolyn Miller Cooper, who recruited me to be on the human relations, and Mayor Fisher appointed me. But I had to go through the same process that I saw at government accountability. I had to go, and my name was given. So I wasn't as controversial as I am now, I guess. But people still said some things. And I was like, whoa, this is deep. But I had a resume. I think I was at U of L at the time. Like, it was important to me. And the fact that some people are appointed and it seems like somebody just called them out the blue versus I got people who told me they've been applying for boards and commissions and never gotten a call, never gotten an email back. So I was very proud to be on that committee because that was one I really wanted to understand, because that's one I've been asking more community people to get involved with so they can see what we're dealing with. But I think that all the committees you've been on, I've heard you be a voice, sometimes be the lone vote, sometimes be the lone voice. And one of the things former Representative Attica Scott used to say to me is when her experience on council, that it's going to be hard. And sometimes you're going to have to make the decision and you have to trust your gut or go with what your constituents want. And your colleagues might go in a whole different direction. She said, be okay with that. Sit with that. Like, don't feel like you got to change it just to be saying I'm with the winning vote, because people said that to me. And thank you so much for your support for the People's Consent Decree, which I will be refiling. But the support to get it out of committee and then the support at the bigger, because I found out that that's a strategy too. Some people are like, oh yeah, I'll be okay with it through committee, but I'm not voting at it. I came in this thing green. Like, why would you support it in committee and not support it at full council? Well, you want to be on both sides. You want to be seen as the good person, so you want to get it through there so folks won't be mad. But then when it really matters, again, you don't. And someone said to me, one of our colleagues, like, you need those 14 votes to win. I recognize that. But I also need the people to see that I'm standing on the right side of history, even if I'm alone or even if it's me and four people. Yeah. So for that final vote, you were one of the 4 people that voted. I am so honored by you doing that. And it's not always easy. And same happened when Elena was supporting.
Doing easy things.
Yeah, like people got on her and said, don't support this person, this and that. And she chose to do what was right. And I'm like, I don't want to give you any pressure. Thank you for doing what you feel is right. It's hard sometimes to walk that narrow path, right? No matter what, we're dealing with that. So I'm hoping that a new day is coming. We've seen more new council people than we have since merger. And we looked at some of the committees today, me and Ben, and we were like, it's some unlikely people in some of these committees. So it's going to be something to watch and learn and grow from. But I am excited. And now I went from serving on 2 committees with you to 1 now.
No.
Public Works. Now.
I like Public Works.
Public Works. I voted that one. I would have cheered to cheer.
And I get the vice chair for the first time.
I know, congratulations.
And you're vice chair, and you're chair.
I'm chair of the ad hoc committee.
And then you're vice chair of the Democratic Caucus. Are you vice chair of any other committees?
No.
Okay.
Oh, goodness. No.
I think that's a big role.
Well, I think that it's also important to note that, like, you don't get paid anymore
No.
for being the president of Metro Council or taking on extra responsibilities. And that's fine for other folks to do. And I'm not saying that from a money-hungry perspective.
No, it's real.
But we have constituents and districts that have great need.
That's right.
And so a lot of times when you see people stepping into these leadership roles, they might be on the outskirts of the county. They might be from the East End. But a lot of times it's because their districts just aren't really that active, and they have that time to kind of dedicate to that role. And so I really respect that people are willing to, like, recognize that and be able to make that work. But when it comes to voting by myself, sometimes I get dismayed. I used to kind of get dismayed, not too much, because I always knew that I was doing what was right. At least what I felt was right. But in that first year, a lot of times it was just me, and then other people started to show up, and then it was 2 votes.
Right.
And so it's still failing, but I can see the needle starting to,
yes, ma'am.
It
moves.
To creep. Yeah. And so, like, that kind of gives me hope. But then when it comes to legislation too, a lot of times I put stuff out there, and people are like, this is never going to work.
Yes.
And if that doesn't work, at least I know that I did what I could to get it out there. And if people didn't vote that way, it's not to say that that was bad legislation. It's to say that they're stinkers.
That's right.
Say that.
I'll let you choose the word.
Yeah, let me pause for a second.
Yes.
But so I think that for me, and a lot of times I can go to bed knowing that I did what I thought was the best thing or the right thing. And I know that I've talked to you about this before. That's something else that's you wrestle with as a council person, and, like, you have constituents.
Yeah.
And sometimes what they want might conflict with what you want. Or you're only hearing from 5 out of your 30,000 constituents.
That's
and maybe that's not how they all feel. But at the end of the day, you have to recognize that they elected you.
Yes.
And that they are relying on you
to make the best informed decision you can.
And exactly. To have their best interest in heart. And so I think that when you go to vote, you just really have to, be comfortable with yourself to make that vote. Yeah. And so I think that that's really important. But then you were also talking, and this might be one of your questions, and I know that we're probably, like, running on time, but why did I step into this role? And I always say I hate that question. I hate it because I'm always just kind of like, to me, it's like common, like, this is what I've always wanted to do. This is what I love. And so I think it's a struggle because, you mean everyone's not into urban planning? Like, I thought everybody was. So I'm unique in that. Yeah. So it's those things that you don't think of that make you unique that are actually the things that, drive you and put you in this role. And that's one of the things that I really want to seek out with the caucus. recognizing those roles and those interests. Like, why did you run for council? What sparks your fire?
That's right.
What is
and surveying.
the fuel in your what is the fuel in your tank? So the survey, I asked, what are the it was kind of based on departments. What are you most interested in? And I told Shamika, I was like, I have thoughts about homelessness. I'm a compassionate individual, but I haven't been doing that work. And so if there was an issue about, housing or homelessness, I would maybe approach you about it.
I would love
the same
that.
way as like trees,
yes,
or parks or infrastructure built environment, lean on me.
That's right.
Another person like Councilman Owen, he's knowledgeable in development. And it's not to say that like your word is law and we all go along with it because we've designated you. But I think it's important to identify those like experts so we can get at least their opinion to help formulate our own.
Yes, Councilman Arthur was here and did a podcast with us.
I had to listen.
And that's one of the things he said. He said, one, I was trying to get him to say he'll run again or he'll come back. But he's like, I did my 4 years. I have my degree. I'm going to go and spread this information. So he's actually going to do community organizing, and he's already been doing it, but he's going to do more of that. So he wants to be effective on that side of it. But he gets to take a lot of institutional knowledge to that work. And I get to bring a lot of my organizing experience into the Metro Council. And sometimes the things line up and sometimes they don't line up. And I think that's been the biggest eye opener is like, wait, I was on that other side. I was doing the 3-minute speeches. I was timing myself. I was holding the 8x11 sheets. I was lobbying, talking to council people, my council person about issues that matter to me, like, welcoming city.
I was a terrorist to my council person.
My goodness.
I would just be like, where is this? Blah, blah, blah. No.
So I would come and see them.
I apologize.
No,
but
it's
also,
okay.
It's Pat. I'd still bother him.
I think that's important. And like you said, I don't think people know this, but the way that they do redistricting, which is based off the census, so we need a really big push when the census come around to get people to fill that out, because a lot of decisions are made based on that. And I asked former Councilwoman Dorsey, who was in my seat, why did you give up Algonquin? What happened? And so,
who just sang at the Keepers of the Dream, and I've heard her sing.
She's got an amazing voice. She's our own Jill Scott.
Yeah.
She does choir. She is amazing. And I said to her, why did you give up this park? And she was saying that they were making deals, and this was all Democratic ran, so it's not even blaming a party. They made those decisions, but each one of our districts have about 28,000 to 30,000 people in it. And so you see the changes in the redistricting are supposed to be based on the shift of the population and how people are moving. And I feel like our ends of town, our southwest, southeast, has been neglected a great deal. We all know the West End, but even beyond that. And it's been important to have people who are recognizing the decision you make. People need to know that they're being represented in that, because it's our turn. I look in that wall when we're in our caucus room, and I know like Representative Reginald Meeks, former representative. I know former councilperson Mary Woolwich, who was in this seat many years. And I see all these people I've worked with on the outside and the social justice work that we've done. And then I think about, what did they think about? Like sitting in an office where former Councilman George Unseld was, and just thinking about like all the people who have come before me.
But also those people that were here before merger.
Yes. Yes.
Merger. Did it happen?
Yeah.
Tune in next time. No, I'm just
kidding. That's a whole nother podcast we need to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
When there were 12 council people.
That's right.
A county that took care of itself.
That's right. And that's what Ken Herndon just explained to us, that before merger, there were 12 council people. There was 4 kind of legislative positions. All within the Waterson. And then they added the 10 districts to get that representation and the things they want. And now a lot of those 10 districts that are outside the Waterson, is how you explained it, are feeling like, hey, a lot of things don't touch our district, or how does this matter? And then we talked about annexation and what's been happening. We talked about taxation. As soon as you talk about taxes, people but I would like to see our public transit supported. I would like to see it reach all the corners of our county. I would gladly pay taxes to see those things happen, and really explaining that stuff to our constituents. Because you said most of your district is in the urban services.
All of it.
All of it. That's a blessing. And I feel blessed to have District 3, but we also have a lot of unincorporated neighborhoods in our district that feel really neglected and left out. And so we've been getting information, trying to explain to them how this happened, how that happened. You know, how can we start to do our part while it's our turn? We got 4 years. We got less because we got appointed. But we have this time to, we came in after an appointment. We got a time to like build out what we need while it's our turn. And that's what I see you doing. While it's your turn with District 15, you're touching on a lot of things at once. And you get some council people who just sit there and they're filing legislation after legislation every week. And then you get some that are in the community. Then you get some that are doing a lot of like stuff with the mayor. But I feel like, do a little bit of it all. And because I had to come in my way, I had to tell people that, because some people wanted me to come in and be like so-and-so or like so-and-so. But they didn't come in with this being put in a box. I came in a box. And so because of that, I have to show all the different parts. And I care about this district. And I feel like I told Ben and Dre, we got blessed with our district. Our folks want their yards. They want their snow. I literally paid money out of my own pocket. And I don't always tell my husband, so if he's watching this, I might hear from him. But to have some of we had a person call in that was crying, that had fallen in their driveway or on their sidewalk. And literally, we went the route like, okay, Public Works, but they're not a priority street during a snow emergency, so they just weren't getting those services. And these are 3 seniors, right? Were all of them seniors? Mm-hmm. And one of them was calling for their neighbor, but literally paid money out of my pocket to have somebody go over there, clear their driveway and, clear their walking area. And he said one of the people came out and went in their garage and said, I'm going to help you. Thank you so much for being here. And just dug out the same spot the whole time while they watched him do it. But it was amazing, and to have that personal touch. So my team is phenomenal in giving that personal touch. Going over there. You might get cussed and yelled at. We went over there. We've had like loud music complaints or somebody, and we got to navigate the NIMBYism. We got to navigate the people who are biased and racist and homophobic, and it is a lot. And I say, oh, y'all, if we're
like therapists in this
we
position.
are. Like, there's levels of this that we're not even covered in. I joke with Ben and say, you're full-time. You make more than me. But if somebody is here just for the money, this ain't a place where you just collect a check. And I refuse.
It ain't enough money.
It ain't enough money to.
I say Amy answers the phone, so she's worth her weight in gold.
That's right.
I'm a millennial. I don't like answering the phone for my own friends and family. They'll call me and I answer the phone. They're like, "Whoa, why did you answer?" But
and we want other people to run. And we want people. What I've met in you and what I've met in Tammy Hawkins, Ken Herndon. All these, JP is people who wanted this position and who've aspired to do it. I think that's phenomenal. They weren't just told to get in there to be a, secret agent, or they had great intentions to come in here and make a difference. So I really commend you and the work that you're doing in District 15, and understand that our districts touch borders. We have a lot of same squeaky wheels, and we're excited to do this work with you, want to partner with you wherever we can. And I would like for you, if you want to share some of the things, if you have an event coming up or some initiatives that you're looking to get support in.
Sure. Legislatively, we've got a few things in the pipeline. I don't want to spoil anything because I don't want to open up any boxes that I'm going to have to deal with right now.
I heard about that. No name. You're not changing the park name.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Oh no, I'm not. That's not me. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing any of that. It's always funny. The littlest things, though, you never know, and it turns into the biggest thing. But I think that coming up from my district. Well, we've got our Bob event, so we've got 2 community planning meetings coming up in March, and people can check my socials for that. Also, go to d15bob.com for more information about Bob. Put May 17th on your calendar for our Big Bob Day. Yes. It'll be in Preston Park, and we're probably we'll definitely have our Derby Our Way event, so just a place that we have all of the departments from Louisville Metro that really have a hand in facilitating Derby, whether it's codes and regs, ABC, LMPD, TARC, all of those people are in the room. So we want to give the community an opportunity to ask the questions. Hey, can I park cars in my front yard? Can I sell hot dogs? Is my street going to be closed? Who do I contact if I have an issue? Churchill Downs is also in that room.
Oh, that's great
we have
to
that
know.
meeting. So you'll definitely be invited. But other than that, goodness, it's all flying so fast. I can't believe it's already the third week. It's been difficult.
Right.
But just tune into my socials. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram.
Okay.
Maybe Blue Sky or something.
How do they find you? You on Blue Sky?
No, Amy is trying to get me on there. Okay. And I said, that's totally fine, but Instagram, you can post to that and it pushes to Facebook. I don't have to do it twice, but that sounds like extra work.
That's why I like Instagram. I'm still locked out of mine.
Yeah,
my personal one.
Season for you?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I've emailed them to can you reset? I did a factory reset on my phone and lost access and contacts to everything.
I have also been dealing with the fallout of that factory reset.
You definitely have. Did you get to ask all your questions? I know she covered a lot of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you all for having me. And again, thank you so very much for being on council. Thanks for inviting me here. And I think you're just a spectacular person. So.
Thank you. Ditto. Yes, and I always say ditto when I mean it. It's not, I will never fake a ditto. I know that it's important for people to see us communicating, working together on screen, off screen. I really like the questions you ask, and especially when I first experienced budget, and I was like, whoa, this is deep. And so we'll be on budget together. Right.
Those newbies have no idea what's in store for them.
We're not on budget
They're
together.
We're new. And I'm like, wait until budget hits. Yeah,
that's right.
Crazy.
It is a crazy time. And we're on, which one?
Just Public Works.
We're just on Public Works together. That's all right. We'll maximize and make the best
We'll
of
strategize,
it.
maximize, yeah. My little baddie in a beret.
Yes. Tell them how to find you. When you wore that one pink beret, I was like, was it pink? Orange. That was beautiful.
I'm going to step up my beret game.
That's all right. We're going to get it together.
You can just follow me at Councilwoman Chappell, and my last name, Chappell.
Double L's.
P's, two L's, yeah. Not related to Dave.
Oh,
people ask me that all the time, and I think it's kind of obvious that I'm not. But I sometimes I just say, oh, my God, Uncle Dave, a hoot at family reunions.
I bet.
And people will look at me like, what?
How did they get to your newsletter? You have an amazing, and she did a great end of the year report, too, on your newsletter.
Inspired by you. You just wanted me to say that.
I just like that.
I really
call me out.
Really like that. I really love that in your report that you all did. But yeah, you can go to our website. Just Google Metro Council and District 15, or just Metro Council. You'll find me, and you can sign up for my newsletter through that. And I do it monthly, and so that'll be coming out in February. And so in February, we're going to be giving some newsletter love, just telling all the newsletters that I love in Metro. So
nice.
I know my fellow council members, which you'll be included.
Yay!
But
we should
also,
be number one. Your number one favorite.
Ranked.
She does her own newsletter. Ben has grown into liking it. Is that a good statement?
We have a relationship, me and the newsletter.
Of course. It's a terrible platform, honestly.
We have an understanding.
It is. We have an understanding, I love that you do your own. I'm like, you do your own newsletter?
Well, we work together on the newsletter.
We do.
We
do work together.
Well, we have a board.
He gives me a deadline now
on there.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what we do. So. The whole team is like, Dre, put your corner piece in there. So we also have been asking our neighborhood folks and associations to share their events. So chili cook-off. Oh, yeah. We want to make sure we share about things that are happening, use the platform to lift up those neighborhoods and highlight what we can. It is it's an adventure, and I don't like a lot of just text. I like to have the pictures too, which become a whole thing.
But it's also that balance, because I like to talk about what's going on in District 15, but also what's going on in Louisville Metro, because it's not, people don't know the boundaries of our district.
No.
And so, we're one Louisville, and so I think that we really need to
One Louisville was one of the things. We were City of Possibilities. We were We were a welcoming city. But
Compassionate
at one
city.
point, compassionate city. I thought at one point we were one Louisville or Louisville
See,
one
the,
or one
the
Louisville.
police, and they have not been able to, no one has been able to answer this for me. They have that ad right now.
Yes.
It's like one mission, one Louisville, or one, and the ones are back to back, and they form an M.
What's the M for Metro?
For
Well,
Metro.
it's in the LMPD, and the ones form an M.
What?
But it's like one Metro, one mission, or something like that. But I'm like, what's the mission?
What does that mean?
What is the mission? I don't know.
We are doing a ride along again coming up, right?
I'm doing one on Friday night.
Yeah, we thought we.
Oh,
So
wait,
if you
am
come
I
in
doing
at
that Saturday?
Vaughn.
the 4th Division on Friday night.
Yeah,
We
Vaughn.
share.
Respond.
We did a 4th Division ride
Yeah,
along.
Vaughn.
Yeah, I'll be riding with Officer Brannick.
Yeah.
Brannick, yeah.
Yeah, we
great.
should get the Saturday. Actually,
It was eventful. I did one, and was it Wyandotte Park?
Yeah, that's where they were.
Dre got called away to. I mean, they went to another one. Ben rode, and then I rode, and then it
All
was
on
a
the same
shooting.
night?
Yeah.
Yes, we all did a shift together. We did their briefing, and then we did a shift together.
And so I rode with Dre, and so I had to sit in the back of the cop car. I will never do that again. It was so small.
It was very small.
I said, "Oh,
I sat up front, and it was a shooting, right as we started our shift. So spent a great amount of couple hours. I found 2 shell casings that they didn't see. I'm like, that's a shell case.
Okay,
I told my husband I was
detective.
proud because he's always taking me to the gun range, and I hate it. But I was like, I found 2 shell. They was like, she's right. It's a shell casing. But I got to see the response to
She solved it.
to the shot, to the shot spotter, and but I got to see how a lot of the other calls get pushed back once there's a shooting or a bigger incident. And then we got to do some house calls where we went, knocked on the door, seen what's happened. There was like a car wreck. I was like, whoa, I almost wanted to become a police officer. You think we do a lot of putting out of fires and solving problems. That's exactly what they do. But it really felt good to do that ride along. And then we had a Hallmark neighborhood meeting where we could share what had happened, because we're having, I don't know if you're getting this, but more and more of our constituents are asking for more surveillance, flock cameras, doorbell cameras. And I'm telling them that
Yes,
comes
doorbell
with
cameras, yes, to your own stuff.
Yes.
Flock cameras. Flock is a brand. Flock is tapping into a network
Yes.
that other people
I don't think they
use,
realize how
and
connected.
we pay a lot of money
Yes.
for flock cameras.
Yes.
That's why I'm against them. I'm not against surveillance necessarily, but
I'm against ultra surveillance to the point you could be having a bad night, and do you want every bad night you have? You know how many times somebody done left my house? We have this uncle that just acts crazy, but he storms out, he walks up the street, he cools off. That's it.
arrested.
Right.
No, I'm just kidding.
And we don't exactly. That could happen if you don't have the right response to it, or if you. So I think having relationships with your neighbors, talking to them, making sure we do that community building, so that when bad things happen and they're a point that we can address it in the best way possible, a bad night doesn't turn into this criminal history or record when you literally got in a heated argument over spades and came outside and because literally our spades is no joke in our family.
All right.
And people take it personal. So yeah,
we're
this
encroaching
is really great.
on audiobook territory, so we might have to split this into parts.
So I do want us to come back and announce spring and summer events. So I would definitely want to highlight Bob, and I would like us to be able to table and support any opportunity that we as District 3 can partner together. We need to figure out that lake and the park, and they've asked us for a fence because apparently there's some issues at night.
Right along Manslick Road as you approach the oh my God, why am I drawing a blank? That neighborhood.
Nichols.
Nichols
Meadow.
Meadow.
Yeah,
Yes,
no.
thank you.
And then the park, though, the Waterson Park, they asked for a gate or something.
Lots of projects.
Lots of projects
I don't like that
in
park
our
just because
CIF.
it is not accessible. I love that park because
Yes.
of the lake, the biodiversity,
Yes.
the birds there. It's incredible.
Right.
But you can't even get to it. I have to go through District 3 to
You
get
do.
to it.
You definitely do.
Yeah.
And the lake is in your district, and the rest of the park is in District 3. So we've done cleanups.
And you keep hassling me for fish.
Yes, fish, and we want to see what we could do to make it where there could be I'll say wildlife, fish again, the folks in the community want to be able to fish. They want us to bring it into District 3. But I was like, we need to talk about what that looks like. So Eviana,
I'll give it to you, just like Iroquois Park. I love it. But Counselor Rui lives right next to it. She's in that park every day.
Yes.
She runs that park.
Yes.
I would give it to her.
I love that.
I love the park. But it's not like I'm trying to like get rid of people, right?
No, I know
like,
what you mean. I know exactly. And I don't know how they decided on the bodies of water like that and how they
like
included.
you can give me all of South Central and I'll take G.G. Moore Park and I'll give 1.5 parks away.
How many parks do you have?
I have Emerson, Bradley, Preston, Wyandotte, and Iroquois.
Wow. Yeah, we only have
and
3.
Wingside. Oh, so tiny.
Oh, right there, second and fourth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
It's an Olmsted Park.
That's an
where our
Olmsted?
latest landmark just went. So the Enid Yandel Wheelman's bench. It's just a big circular bench. But it is our
Circular
latest
bench.
landmark.
What is a circular bench? How is it circular?
Like the one that has the people in bronze sitting on them, or it's made. Okay.
Maybe I'll put. now I'm like, somebody in bronze needs to be sitting on that bench.
Those are kind of creepy, but I do like
I
them.
would exhaust all of my money to do a bronze statue. And that's another thing. The people, when we talk about merger, those 12 council people,
Yeah.
they're like NDF funds. I don't think it was called NDF, but they had $100,000.
Yeah, we get what,
With
75?
5,000 constituents, right?
Yes.
Like, now it breaks down to each constituent in my NDF
Like
gets
$3
about $2 and some cents. Like, I don't even know if value menu items, if you could get one of those for that amount of money anymore.
I'm hungry now, and $3 wouldn't do it.
Well, all right. Without further ado.
Thank you so much. This was fun.